This session is about hierarchies. If you have a class in your knowledge graph that contains a hierarchical structure, we can bring this into Veezoo and enable aggregations or breakdowns along this structure. So let's have a look at this knowledge graph here. This is the knowledge graph of an online store where customers can place orders and buy products. Our company is built up out of different divisions, which you can see here, and each order belongs to one of these divisions. These divisions are arranged hierarchically. So if I ask to see all divisions, we can see here our different branches, but also districts and then the divisions themselves. And as you can see, in this class, there are different levels of this hierarchy contained. This is important for the hierarchy to work. If I ask for the sales per division, we can see here that only the branches are shown. Why is this the case? This is the case because in our orders table, the order is always matched to a branch. And we want to aggregate these along the hierarchical structure of the divisions within Veezoo itself. So how do we do this? We go into Veezoo Studio, and here we can see the class division. Now we need to edit this a little bit to tell Veezoo how the hierarchy is defined. So the first thing we need to do is to tell Veezoo that this is a hierarchical class. We do this by adding this tag. And now, once we have this class here, we need to tell Veezoo along what dimension of the table the hierarchy is defined. So we need a hierarchy column, which we can add as well. Now, watch out, this here is not a class like here, but it is actually referencing the database layer. So it is actually referencing the column within the table from where the divisions are defined. Now we don't need this here anymore, so we can get rid of this. And now if we save this, we can delete this. Now if we save these and synchronize the entities and open up the entities, we can now see that each entity now contains a tag which either is a hierarchy leaf, meaning it is on the lowest level of the hierarchy, or it is a hierarchy node, meaning that there are children, this entity has children within the hierarchy. If it is a leaf or if it is a node but not on the top, then it will contain a parent, and the hierarchy will be thusly defined via these parent nodes. If we now go back into Veezoo and ask the same questions again, so sales per division, Veezoo now knows that it can aggregate the sales along the hierarchy. So now here we see our top level divisions, and we can even click on them and see the breakdown. So these here are contained within, and now we can, for example, click into the Northeast district and we see the New York City branch and the Boston branch as well. Now, hierarchies don't necessarily need to be defined within the database. If we have a column defining the hierarchy, it's useful because we can import it and automatically generate the hierarchy. If we don't have this, then we can also manually define it. And hierarchies can be useful in different situations. So here we have a natural hierarchy within these divisions, but there are other places where it can come in handy as well. A different case where we might want to use a hierarchy is here on the orders class. And we can see here the orders have a status. If I click on the status, we can see we have the 5 unique values: canceled by customer, canceled by us, initiated, successful, and waiting for approval. Now, right now, we can, of course, ask Veezoo to show only orders that have the status canceled by customer. We can also ask for a combination. So we could ask for show orders that are canceled by a customer or canceled by us. But it might be more natural to introduce a hierarchy here so that, for example, we can simply ask for canceled orders or orders that are done or that are still open. So we can do this by manually introducing a hierarchy. Then, once again, we need to tell Veezoo that this here is in fact a hierarchical class. We save this. Now we can open up the entities file, and here we see what was created from the database. And these are the 5 values that are present in the database. Now, as mentioned before, we would like to have an entity for canceled, we would like to have one for open, and we would like to have one for done. So we can manually add these entities in here as well by just editing the file directly. So now we have these entities here as well. They don't need an ID because they cannot be matched in the database because there are no actual rows in the database with these IDs, so we don't need those. And now we need to add the hierarchy. Once again, we need to tell Veezoo if these entities are either leaves or nodes. And we will do this by adding the tag leaf everywhere in our original entities. And then we add the nodes for the newly created ones. Now we need to add the parents so that Veezoo knows how to build the hierarchy. So for this we would just add parent. And then here we would add the identifier of what we want as the parent. So canceled by customer should have the parent canceled. This, of course, is also the case for canceled by us. Then initiated should have the parent open. Same for waiting for approval. And then successful should have the parent done. Now within here, canceled should also be part of done. So we simply add this here as well. Now we save the file. And once we come back here to Veezoo, we can reload the page. And if we now ask number of orders per status, and we can break this down along the hierarchy. As mentioned before, we can now, for example, also ask for show canceled orders. And Veezoo will automatically use the newly created canceled entity, which will then contain the entities canceled by us and canceled by customer. So here we can see the orders and we can see their more granular status. So these are 2 very useful applications of hierarchies. As said, we can either manually create them, or if they're already defined in the database, we can import them. One useful caveat I would like to mention quickly is that the hierarchies as defined here, can only be used if the hierarchy is within one class. So if we take a look at the product category here, we can see that the product has a category and it has a subcategory. And we could also interpret this as a hierarchy. So each category belongs to a subcategory. But in the database, these are two different columns. So they also get two different classes here within Veezoo. If we would combine these to a single column, a single table with one column containing both levels, then we could display this as a hierarchy. As is, if these are different columns, we will use different attributes for this case.